Welcome to What's Up Over Edmonton for November 2024. My name's Jeff Robertson, and I'm a member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, Edmonton Centre. And the picture at the front of my presentation is a picture I took of Comet C2023A3 back on October the 13th. And I was northwest of the city, and this was about an hour after sunset, and I could clearly see the comet with my own eyes, and this is a 10-second exposure. Fortunately, it was above that black mass of clouds, but it sank into that about 20 minutes later. But anyway, this picture doesn't do it justice. It did have a beautiful tail through my binoculars. I could see this huge tail on this thing. And I hope everyone got a chance to see it. I'm told it's still visible. Best to get out of town. So I call this What's Up Over Edmonton because the skies over Edmonton are fundamentally different than what's presented in many popular astronomy publications like Sky and Telescope and Astronomy Magazine, and talked about on the Weather Channel and the CBC. And this example that I've been giving for a couple, 3 years now is the skies over Toronto on July the 5th at 11 o'clock. And I always point out this constellation here, Scorpio. And in Toronto, you can see the whole thing. However, in Edmonton, Scorpio never gets completely above the horizon. This is as much as we ever see of Scorpio, just the top. And it's not only what we can see, but how we see it. And this is a picture I took last February 2023, of the moon, Jupiter and Venus. You can see they're on a slant of about 45 degrees angle. However, in Bucerias, Mexico, that same night, my wife's cousin took this picture of the same scene with the moon at the top, Jupiter in the middle, Venus at the bottom, and they're almost a straight line down to the horizon because the ecliptic rides that much higher in southern latitudes. A lot of the information I use comes out of the Observer's Handbook, which is put out every year by the RASC, and it has 352 pages of just about anything the amateur observer would want to know. So what do we got in the sky in November 2024? We got short days, we got long nights, maybe bitter cold, although the weather's been pretty good lately. I was picking up more leaves today. And we have the Grey Cup later on in the month, which is something I always look forward to. So we'll go back to standard time on November the 3rd. We have the South Taurid meteor shower, which peaks on the morning of the 5th. We have the North Taurid meteor shower, which peaks on the morning of the 12th. And we have the Leonid meteor shower, which peaks on the morning of the 17th. And Uranus is at opposition on the 17th. That is, it rises as the sun is setting. So I'll go to what I call the planetarium portion, and as usual, I have pre-recorded it. So here we go. Let's have a look at what we can see in the skies over Edmonton for the month of November 2024. And as always, we'll start with sunrise and sunset times. So on November the 1st, the sun rises at 8:34 a.m. It sets at 5:59 p.m. for 9 hours and 25 minutes of daylight. Astronomical twilight ends, that is, night begins, at 7:58 p.m., and that is Mountain Daylight Time. On November the 30th, the sun rises at 8:28 a.m. It sets at 4:18 p.m. for 7 hours and 52 minutes of daylight. Night begins, that is, astronomical twilight ends, at 6:26 p.m., and we are now on Mountain Standard Time. Before I talk about the planets, let's just briefly talk about the comet, C2023A3. I hope everyone got a chance to see it in the middle of October. It was really spectacular. As of the time I'm recording this, the comet has faded quite a bit. I haven't been able to see it visually for a while, but I still can see it in binoculars, even in the city. So, at the beginning of the month, the comet has moved out of Ophiuchus and is heading toward Aquila. So, let's just follow the comet starting on the 1st, day by day. Here it is on November the 10th. It's crossing the Milky Way. On the 20th, it's approaching inside Aquila. Bright star Altair is right here. And let's just continue to the 30th. The simulation says it's getting fainter and fainter. By the 30th, it is within the boundaries of the constellation and still residing in the Milky Way. By this time, I would expect it would be a telescopic object. You may still be able to see it in binoculars. I don't know. Comets are unpredictable. Moving along the ecliptic from west to east, Mercury is just too close to the Sun to be seen from our latitude. Looking at Venus, at the beginning of the month, it is setting at 7:27, about an hour and a half after the Sun. By the end of the month, it's setting at 7:10, but we are at Mountain Standard Time, so that would be equal to 8:10 if we were still on daylight time. Venus is getting higher and higher at sundown each passing day, and by the end of the year, it's going to be quite high in the southwest sky as darkness falls. If you looked at Venus through a telescope, it would present a gibbous phase. Moving along the ecliptic, we come to Saturn. It's in the constellation Aquarius. As it has passed opposition a couple months ago, I will give you the set times for Saturn. So, on November the 1st, it sets at 3:03 a.m. By the end of the month, it is setting at 12:08 a.m. And if we look at the planet through a telescope, you can see its rings. We've had some pretty good views of Saturn at our observatory in Coronation Park, which has delighted visitors. It's amazing how many people ask if we've pasted a picture on the end of the telescope. Moving down the ecliptic, we come to Neptune. At the beginning of the month, Neptune is setting at 4:03 a.m. By the end of the month, it is setting at 1:34 a.m. And if we look at Neptune through a telescope, we see this beautiful blue disk. And the few people that have looked at Neptune through our telescopes at our observatory, some are impressed just to say, hey, I've seen Neptune. Others are just saying, is that it? As we continue down the ecliptic, we come to Uranus. It is placed somewhat close to the Pleiades. It's about 7 degrees from the Pleiades, or 14 full moon diameters. And through a telescope, it is this bluey-green disk. Uranus rises at 6:26 p.m. It reaches opposition on November the 17th. That is, the Sun, Earth, and Uranus are all in a straight line. At the end of the month, it is rising at 3:29 p.m. in the afternoon. Next, we come to Jupiter. And Jupiter is in the horns of Taurus the Bull. There we go there. In the horns of a dilemma, one would say. Jupiter reaches opposition next month, so at the beginning of November, it's rising at 7:45 p.m. By the end of the month, it's rising at 4:39 p.m. And through a telescope, you can see the equatorial bands and its 4 big moons Ganymede, Callisto, Europa, and Io. And as I mentioned before, over the course of a single night, if you follow Jupiter, you can watch it do one complete rotation because Jupiter's day is only 10 hours long. And finally, we come to Mars. Mars is getting larger and brighter as the Earth catches up to it in its orbit. It has passed completely through Gemini and has entered Cancer, and it is about to start its retrograde motion. And I think I will talk about the retrograde motion in the December edition of What's Up. At the beginning of the month, Mars is rising at 10:42. By the end of the month, it's rising at 8:16, and it reaches opposition in January. And in a mid-sized telescope, you should be able to start seeing some surface features on Mars, some dark patches, some light patches. You can also see its polar caps. The moon is new on the 1st. On the 10th, it is near Saturn. It is near Neptune on the 11th. On the 15th, it's parked between Uranus and the Pleiades, and it is also a full moon. On the 16th and 17th, it is passing by Jupiter. And on the 19th and 20th, it is passing by Mars. Daylight saving time ends on the morning of November the 3rd. And we turn our clocks back 1 hour. I don't find a problem turning my clock forward and back every year, but some people seem to have a big problem with it. But if we're to stay on the same time all year, I would say let's stay on standard time. Now, I know when I was working, it was great to be able to get in 18 holes after work and still be able to see your ball at about 10:45. However, if we stay on daylight saving time all year long, around the solstice, the sun doesn't come up until almost 10 o'clock, which means our kids and grandkids are going to school when it's still pretty dark out. I just can't see the kids coming out for recess and it's still dark or the sun has just cleared the horizon. And that's my editorial for today. As for meteor showers this month, we have a few of them, starting off with the South Taurid meteor shower on the morning of November the 5th. This is showing the radiant point of the South Taurids. Best viewed after midnight. You can expect 5 to 10 meteors per hour. The moon will have set after midnight. The South Taurids are the result of the Earth passing through the debris field of Comet 2P Encke, which is a 3-year, 3-month period comet. On the morning of November 12th, there is the North Taurid meteor shower. There's the radiant point there. And like the South Taurids, it is viewed after midnight, and again 5 to 10 meteors per hour. Unfortunately, there is a waxing gibbous moon interfering with the fainter meteors. Now, the Taurids are noted for fireballs, so who knows, you might see one of those. And then there is the Leonids on the 17th. There's the radiant point there. Again, it is after midnight, so it's the morning of the 17th when it peaks. There is a waxing gibbous moon in the picture, so that's going to interfere with all but the faintest meteors. You can expect 10 to 15 meteors per hour for that one, and that is caused by the Earth going through the debris left behind by Comet 55P Tempel-Tuttle, which has an orbital period of 33 years. As always, get away from the city lights, dress warm, take a blanket, take something hot to drink, take a friend, and take a comfortable chair. Gravity chairs work great. And enjoy the meteors in November. Hopefully you'll have good weather. And the sun has been very active this month again. We've had some really nice aurora shows in the month of October. I could even see them from my light polluted backyard, which was amazing. So keep an eye out for aurora. If you haven't already, subscribe to aurorawatch.ca to get alerts on your phone or in your email. So I think that's about it. I went way longer than I should have last month, so I'm going to cut short this month and ask if there are any questions. Any questions, comments? Rotten Tomatoes? Okay, we'll go on to the moon.
What do you see when you look at the moon? When it's full and round, do you see a balloon? Does it look like a cookie with the bite taken out? What do you see when you look at the moon? It follows a path every month of the year.
Okay, the moon is new on November the 1st. First quarter is on November the 8th. The full moon is on the 15th, and the November full moon is known as the beaver moon. It's also known as the frost moon, the river's freezing moon, the morning moon, not morning as in, hello, good morning, more boo hoo hoo, I guess summer's over. And also the darkest depth moon is another name for the November full moon. And third quarter is on November 22nd. So I normally pick a feature out of one of the Observe the Moon certificate lists for binocular or telescopes. This one is in both. And I think I've done this one before, but I went back to my past What's Up and I couldn't find where I'd done it, but I'm pretty sure I have. Maybe I just missed it. But as I just mentioned, I spent so much time on another segment, I picked an easy one. So here we go. And it is the crater Copernicus. Now, I mentioned before I got my first telescope for Christmas in grade 5. And although this isn't the particular scope, this is an exact model of that scope. I saw it on eBay and I bought it in a fit of nostalgia. Even came with its original box. Now, included with this telescope way back when was a Rand McNally map of the moon, which hung on my bedroom wall for years. And the first lunar feature I could name through my telescope was this one, the crater Copernicus. Now, if you look at the full moon through a telescope, the most prominent feature you'll notice is the huge ray pattern from the crater Tycho. And that's this guy down here. There, circled it. This ray pattern is visible at full moon because the ejecta that forms the rays reflect the light directly back in the direction the light was coming from. And with the sun behind the Earth shining directly on the moon, it's reflecting it back in that direction, kind of like a road sign. And there's an illustration there. But if you look at Tycho when the moon isn't full, it doesn't look all that special because it lies in a heavily cratered area of the southern highlands. Now, Copernicus also has a big ray pattern when the moon is full, but the crater doesn't need a full moon to stand out. And there it is there. And that's because Copernicus is on the northeastern edge of the ocean of storms. It's not in a heavily cratered area. So it really stands out against the lunar maria. And it was named after the 16th century astronomer Nicholas Copernicus, who advanced the heliocentric model of the solar system, displacing the geocentric model that was commonly accepted in Europe for over 1,000 years. Now, so fearful of the church at the time, Copernicus asked that his model and his works not be published until after he was dead. The crater is fairly young, about 800 million years old, And it's 90 kilometers wide and 3.8 kilometers deep. And even in this image of mine, and I say it many times, I'm the world's worst astrophotographer, you can see its terrace walls and a couple central peaks within the crater, and those peaks rise about 800 meters above the floor. And here's a view from an orbiting spacecraft looking straight down at the crater. Uh, the floor is a mixture of smooth and hilly terrain. And this final view, taken from Apollo 17 back in 1972, showing Copernicus from the side. Now, from the RASC Explore the Universe certificate program for autumn constellations, I've never featured Andromeda, so that's what I'm doing today. So here is the star field it resides in. This is the astronomical drawing of that part of the sky. And here is a drawing of Andromeda, the chained maiden. Now, in Greek mythology, Andromeda was the daughter of Cepheus and Cassiopeia, the king and queen of the kingdom of Ethiopia. Her mother, Cassiopeia, boasted she was more beautiful than the Nereids, who were 50 sea nymphs. So to punish the queen for her arrogance, Poseidon flooded the kingdom and sent the sea monster Cepheus to ravage the inhabitants. King Cepheus consulted an oracle who told him that the king must sacrifice his daughter Andromeda to the monster. So she was stripped and chained to a rock by the sea to await her death. However, Perseus arrived on the scene, having just slain the Gorgon Medusa and was carrying her severed head, which instantly turns to stone anything that looks at it. So Perseus killed the monster with the head, saved Andromeda. The two were married and they lived happily ever after. So the constellation lies between Cassiopeia's W, which you see in the top left, and the great square of Pegasus, which is immediately adjacent to it. It's one of the 48 Greek constellations, first listed by Ptolemy in the 2nd century. And it kind of looks like the hind legs of Pegasus, but the Greeks saw something different. There are 3 stars in the constellation that are brighter than 3rd magnitude. So noting 2 of them is Alpheus, which marks the corner of the great square of Pegasus. But greater minds say it's part of Andromeda. It shines at magnitude plus 2.06, and it is a hot blue star, some 3.6 solar masses, and a surface temperature around 13,800 degrees Kelvin, compared with our own sun's 6,000 degree Kelvin surface temperature. It's 97 light years away from us. Next brightest star is Merak, and it is about as bright as Alpheus, but it is a cool, bright red giant, 200 light years away, and it is 1,900 times more luminous than the sun and 3 to 4 times more massive. Now, if you draw a line from Merak to the third 3.4 magnitude star Mu Andromedae, you come to M31, the great galaxy in Andromeda, and a couple of its satellite galaxies. And there they are. M31 is a spiral galaxy, 2.5 million light years away. It is the closest spiral galaxy to the Milky Way and the farthest object in the night sky visible to the unaided eye. Shines at a magnitude of 3.4. It's larger than our own Milky Way. I've seen the bright central region of the galaxy in binoculars, even in the city. And even in a telescope, that's all that's visible in the city through all the light pollution. In all its glory, M31 is about 6 times as wide as the full moon. And the best view I ever had of this galaxy was at the Northern Prairie Star Party, when someone had this humongous pair of 6-inch diameter binoculars. So it was like 2 6-inch telescopes side by side. And through them, I could see the whole thing. whereas in my own SCT, the field of view is so narrow, all I can see is really the core. I have to sweep across it if I want to look at the arms. Now, a satellite galaxy of M31 is M32, and it is a compact elliptical galaxy, and it's about 6,500 light years across. And it may have started out as a spiral galaxy, but gravity from its huge neighbor has altered its shape, and it also lies about 2.5 million light years away. And above it is M110, which is another dwarf elliptical galaxy. It's about 17,000 light years in diameter and 2.7 million light years distance. There is evidence of young blue stars in the center of M110. It is a small galaxy, has about 10 billion stars, and can be seen in mid-sized telescopes. And this is an image showing all three of them with labels. So we're going to move on to space history. So this is where we look at a past event that not only occurred in this month, but whose anniversary year is divisible by 5. So in 2024, we look at events in years ending in 4 or 9. And tonight we're going to go back 55 years to 1969 and the second manned landing on the moon, Apollo 12. Because a lot of the video was used in this segment, I decided to just make it into a video as well. I figured I could put this thing together in about 4 days, and it took me 2 weeks. It goes on a little long, and even though I did leave a lot on the cutting room floor. So here we go, and I hope this volume is loud enough. Apollo 11 accomplished the first manned lunar landing, fulfilling President Kennedy's 1961 goal of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth by the end of the decade. Apollo 11 stayed on the moon less than a day, and during the single 2.5-hour EVA explored an area smaller than a baseball field, most of the time in an area the size of a baseball infield. Apollo 11 also overshot the targeted landing site by over 6 kilometers.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Later Apollo missions planned multiple EVAs, lasting much longer periods and venturing further and further from the lunar module. To do this, the astronauts had to hit the planned landing site. This was the mission of Apollo 12. Apollo 12 was to land in the Ocean of Storms, an area thought to contain younger material than what was found by Apollo 11, perhaps even ejecta from the crater Copernicus, some 300 kilometers away. The crew for the mission were Commander Charles Pete Conrad, Lunar Module pilot Alan Bean, and Command Module pilot Richard Dick Gordon. Bean was making his first flight. Conrad had flown on Gemini 5 in 1965 and commanded Gemini 11 with Dick Gordon in 1966. Until earlier this year, Conrad and Gordon held the record for the highest apogee of a crewed mission in Earth orbit, 1,374 kilometers. The crew were all U.S. Navy aviators, which was reflected in the mission patch, and the call sign of the Command Service Module, Yankee Clipper. The call sign for the lunar module was Intrepid. The primary objective of the mission was to land where they were supposed to, and as a marker, they were to set down near Surveyor 3, an unmanned probe that soft-landed on the moon in April 1967. The exact position of the Surveyor was known, and when the trajectory people asked Conrad where he wanted to land, he said, "Put them right on top of the Surveyor." Apollo 12 launched into a driving rain on November 14, 1969. President Nixon was in attendance, the first time a sitting president would witness a manned launch.
We have guidance internal. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, ignition, 3, 2, 1, 0, liftoff. Clock's running. Liftoff, the clock's running. I got a long program. Right to clear the tower. I got a pitch and a roll program, and this baby is really going. Man, is it? 30 seconds. Looks good. Roll start.
36 seconds into the flight, the Saturn V was hit by lightning. The bolt followed the rocket's exhaust all the way down to the launch tower.
Mark 1 Bravo. Roger, we had a whole bunch of buses drop off. That's nothing. It's nothing. I think it's... What we got? I can't see. There's nothing wrong. AC bus, one light. All the fuel cells. I just lost the platform.
Several of the command module systems went offline, but the rocket continued to perform normally. This was because the Saturn V was not controlled from the command module, but from the instrument unit, which sits atop the third stage and contains computers, timers, and guidance instruments used to fly the big rocket. As the astronauts got the command module systems back online, they laughed about it all the way to orbit.
Wasn't that a gift they ever gave us? Jesus. That was something else. I never saw so many lights on the floor. There were so many lights up there I couldn't read them all. There was no sense reading them because I was looking at this. I was putting it over there. It looked great. Except we had all the lights. Well, Houston, you're right smack dab on a trajectory. You're doing a beautiful job. Okay, we're all chuckling up here over the lights. We all said there were so many on we couldn't read them. Hello, Houston. Yankee Clipper with Intrepid in tow has arrived on time.
Apollo 12 arrived in lunar orbit on November 18th. The following day, leaving Dick Gordon alone, Conrad and Bean in Intrepid separated from Yankee Clipper and began their descent to the surface. Using the Doppler shift of the radio signals, the position of the spacecraft was nailed down, and when Intrepid pitched over at 7,000 feet, and they could finally see where they were headed, Conrad could not contain his excitement when he saw they were right on target.
There it is. Son of a gun, right down the middle of the road. Outstanding. 42 degrees, Pete. Hey, it's targeted right for the center of the crater. Look out there. I can't believe it. Amazing. Fantastic. 42 degrees, 3 feet, 60 feet, coming down at 3. 50 feet.
The dust kicked up by their engine was thicker than what was experienced by the crew of 11, and Conrad had to use all his skill to set Intrepid down safely.
Start the clock. 42 feet coming down at 2. 40 coming down at 2. Looking good. Watch the left. 31, 32, 30 feet. Coming down at 2 feet. You got plenty of gas, dude. Hang in there. 30 seconds. 18 feet coming down at 2. He's got it made. Come on in there. 24 feet. Contact light. Roger, copy contact. Trod. Pro. Yeah, pro. Okay. Storm off. Okay. I'll cycle these valves. You got your engine command override off.
A few hours after landing, the front hatch of Intrepid was open and Pete Conrad backed out onto the porch, climbed down the 9-rung ladder, and with words that would win him a $500 bet back on Earth, he became the third person to stand on the moon.
And that may have been a small one for Neil, but that's a long one for me.
As he took his first steps, he confirmed they had landed exactly where they were supposed to.
Now, but I gotta take it easy and watch what I'm doing. Oh, you'll never believe it. That's what I see sitting on the side of the crater. Real surveyor, huh? Real surveyor, yes sir. Does that look neat? It can't be any further than 600 feet from here.
The TV picture sent back from the lunar surface was not the grainy black and white images of Apollo 11, but in living color. The Westinghouse color camera that had been used on board the command module beginning with the Apollo 10 mission had been modified for surface use and was stowed in the Mesa, or modularized equipment storage area, a deployable pallet on the descent stage of the lunar module. As Conrad began collecting samples and taking photographs, Alan Bean joined him on the surface some 40 minutes later.
Okay, you look great. Welcome aboard. Okay, please, wait a minute. Chart I didn't get. The boy color chart on undisturbed server didn't make it.
As on Apollo 11, the TV camera was to be removed from the mesa and set up on a tripod to give view of the activities. Unfortunately, as Bean was moving the camera, he pointed it directly at the sun for several seconds, burning out the pickup tube, and that was the end of live color TV from the moon.
Where is Earth? There it is. There's the TV. And pointing towards the sun, that's there. Wait here a minute.
The first EVA was almost 4 hours long and was mostly taken up with setting up the ALSAP, or Apollo Lunar Surface Experiment Package, a nuclear-powered set of experiments, including a seismometer, a magnetometer, ion detector, and spectrometer. The instruments would return data until June 1974, when they were shut down due to budget cuts. Before closing out the first EVA, the American flag was erected. All flags planted by the Apollo astronauts were regular nylon flags with a hinged bar along the top to hold the flag out like it was blowing in the wind. On Apollo 12, the bar would not lock in place, so the flag hung limply in the lunar vacuum. The second EVA began the following day. Conrad and Bean collected samples and visited Surveyor 3. They closely examined and photographed the Surveyor and removed parts for it for return to Earth. During the second EVA, which lasted a little less than 4 hours, Conrad and Bean walked 1.3 kilometers total and traveled more than 410 meters from Intrepid. After collecting almost 34 kilograms of lunar samples and staying on the moon for 31½ hours, the crew fired Intrepid's ascent stage engine and headed back towards Yankee Clipper.
It's gone. And away we go. Where did it fire? John? It's good. He's good. Cooling off. Good. Looking good. It looks good.
After docking with Yankee Clipper and transferring samples and film, Intrepid's ascent stage was sent crashing down upon the moon, its impact being picked up by the seismometer left during EVA-1. After staying one more day, the big service module engine blasted Apollo 12 out of lunar orbit towards home. While en route, they observed a total solar eclipse with a difference. The Earth was blocking the sun. They splashed down November 24th, and the crew went into a 3-week quarantine in case they brought back any moon virus. Apollo 12 is mostly remembered for being hit by lightning and wrecking the TV camera. My 14-year-old self was very disappointed as my dad had bought our first color TV in September. The networks who covered the moonwalks live had to improvise. CBC, which used the feed from CBS, had a couple guys in spacesuits tromping around a studio moonscape and trying to mimic what the astronauts were doing on the audio. CTV, who used the ABC feed, we only had 2 channels back then, had puppets. I remember staying up in the wee hours watching this. Today, images from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter show the Apollo 12 landing site, including the descent stage, the ALSAP, Surveyor 3, and the tracks left by Conrad and Bean 55 years ago this month. Pete Conrad commanded the first crew to occupy NASA's Skylab space station in 1973. He died in a motorcycle accident in July of 1999. He was 69 years old. Al Bean commanded the second crew to occupy Skylab, also in 1973. After leaving NASA, he became an artist, painting subjects based on his experience as an astronaut. He died in May of 2018 at the age of 86. Dick Gordon was to command Apollo 18, but that mission was canceled due to budget cuts. He died in November of 2017 at the age of 88. So, Heavens Above is a great source of all things astronomical. You can print out star charts for your area for any particular time, for any particular location, track the comet, get finder charts for the comet, or whatever else. So the final What's Up is going to be on Wednesday, December the 4th at 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. The next RASC Edmonton regular meeting is on Monday, November the 4th. It is the first Monday of the month rather than the second because of Remembrance Day on Monday, November the 11th. So we've moved the meeting up 1 week. And with that, I will say thank you for your attention. And if there's any questions or comments, I'll listen to them now.
Good job. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, Apollo 12 is amazing. That the series from the Earth to the Moon.
Yeah.
Apollo 12 is my favorite episode. The way that those three guys got along and they joked with each other, and the way they just that whole episode just almost put shivers down my spine when I think of that one because how like the camaraderie those three guys had. It was just amazing. So, and the fun they had, they made it fun.
Yeah, well, one of the things I left out on the cutting room floor, well, maybe I can bring it up. Let's see here, was their checklists. And they mentioned that a bit in
That's right.
in From Earth to the Moon.
Yeah, did they have Playboy centerfolds or something on their checklist on their wrists?
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I still have it, or I might have deleted it when oh wait, that's the moon. That's not Apollo. Oops. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So they would draw these little Snoopy drawings there. There's a Snoopy standing next to the high gain antenna, so deploy the S-band antenna, blah, blah, blah. And other things, what is this? Voice. Oh, this is about setting up the TV camera. This one is unpacking the all set by the looks of it. And every now and again they would stick in this, centerfold pictures, seen any interesting hills or valleys, and the crew didn't know about it until they actually were looking on the moon, and they would laugh to themselves, but they couldn't actually say anything because it's over the radio and go back to Earth and wonder, So that was something I left on the cutting room floor because I thought the Apollo segment was getting a little too long. So anyway,
never long enough, Jeff. It was good. Yeah. The other bit about Apollo 12 that I love from the Earth to the Moon is when they I'm sorry, I forget the name of the spacecraft, but when the lunar module connects with the
Intrepid and Yankee Clipper.
Yankee Clipper, yeah, when they get together. And Gordon looks down and goes, "There is no way you guys are getting into my spacecraft with as much dirt on you as you have."
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so the next, of course, from the TV series, they show them they're actually probably buff naked when they decide to go into lunar. What's it called?
Yeah, transfer through the tunnel. Yeah, that actually happened. The guy who most of that series was derived from. Hang on, let's see if I can reach this book.
I'm reading it right now, Jeff.
Oh man, A Man on the Moon. Yeah,
Man on the Moon. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Man, is it good? Yeah, just
Yeah. Whoops here. Oh yeah. Well, I got to. This doesn't show here. I've got to turn off my background. There. Whoops. There. Yeah, this is when it first came out, so this isn't hardcover and that, but yeah, it's a great book. It's one of the essential Apollo books. I've got about 3 of them I would recommend. The other one is called one's Carrying the Fire by Mike Collins, and the other one is Apollo, the Race to the Moon. And it came out, back in the 90s sometime or 80s. But yeah, those are essential books.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy that played Conrad in that series, Paul, I think it's Paul McCain or something like that. He played Dr. Romano or something like that on ER. He was a hotshot surgeon in that show, and in his office he had a Saturn V model
Oh,
because
wow.
he was filming From Earth to the Moon at the same time he was on ER. So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. The other bit I love about the Apollo space program is just how how much Tom Hanks is an enthusiastic person about the whole program. And all those bits at the start of every show, he says a little quip of,
yeah,
and just I thought it was amazing.
well, he's kind of the same age as I am, and so he grew up with it.
Yeah.
So, I think anyone who was really interested in that sort of thing back then when you're a kid, it just kind of sticks with you.
Well, I was just a baby, so it stuck with me.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as the comet goes, I don't, you know, hope everybody got to see it, because comets of the century come along about every 10 years. So, well, Neowise was like 2020. That was a good one. But there wasn't any real bright one. The last real bright one would probably be Hale Bopp in 97, but then there was Hyakutake in 96, which was also a very bright comet. But on average, about every 10 years, you have the comet of the century.
Wow. Yeah. Was out at Elk Island last night, and the other guy that he ended up being coming out, he parked right beside me, and he just had an SLR camera, and he was able to see it through his camera, and my 3-inch refractor, I couldn't see it, but
No? Okay.
probably staring at a screen at work all day too long, so my eyes probably couldn't adjust.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
It was
Well,
beautiful.
I see on the email some people are heading out west to see it. So, uh, and Doug Hube says it's far enough south that you could go to Hayburger out at Elk Island, and the lights of the city wouldn't be in the way. So, yeah,
There you
there
go.
you go.
I do have to let you know that last month's episode of What's Up Over Edmonton, was over 23,000 views since last.
Really?
Yeah,
Are you kidding?
I'm not. That's what I see when I go to YouTube. So, um, you might this whole idea that you're gonna have this is your penultimate one,
Yeah.
you might be starting to get famous or something.
Jeez.
Yeah,
I just,
yeah.
I,
It's funny
I,
'cause all the
I
other
don't.
ones are like 400, 300 sort of views, but
Yeah,
this
yeah, 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 yeah.
wasn't. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, next month will be the final one. Because I've been doing this for over 4 years and it takes up a lot of time and I just don't think I can add anything more to it than what I already have. And you know, it's time to say goodbye, I guess. Anyway, so unless there's anything else, I'll say thank you very much. This is being recorded. Um, I'll edit it and stick it up on YouTube and see if I get 26,000 views again or something or whatever. I'll have to check that out. I'm
Yeah.
gobsmacked.
When you go into the directory for RESC Edmonton,
Yeah.
and all the videos, and yeah, it was 23,000 before I looked here today. So it was pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Okay. All right.
All
Okay.
right,
Well,
Jeff. Thank you.
thanks everyone. And hopefully we'll see you back here at the beginning of December for the final one. All right. Good night.
Night,
Thank
Jeff.
you.